Parents always treated me like their personal ATM. When I found out they left everything to my brother, I refused to play their game any longer. My name is Ralph, and any misgivings I had about my place in my family were eliminated the day I learned about the will. It wasn't even a dramatic sit-down in which my parents revealed the news. No, I found out purely by mistake, via sheer dumb luck. It happened a few months back while I was at their house, the same house I had been helping them pay for the past 5 years. The mortgage, the occasional shopping run, and even minor repairs around the house. I was the one who kept everything together, while my brother Eric did nothing. And when I say nothing, I actually mean nothing. No job, no obligations, just lying around, waiting for life to deliver him everything on a silver platter, which evidently my parents were only too pleased to do. That day, I was assisting my father with some paperwork because, as usual, neither of them could be bothered to figure out how to do things for themselves. He had requested me to scan some documents for him, mostly legal and financial, and I hadn't given it much thought until I noticed it. A folder labeled Estate Plan and Last Will and Testament, sitting right there in the stack. I don't usually snoop, but curiosity got the better of me. After all, I had been the one to ensure they had a roof over their heads. It wasn't out of the question to wonder how things were set up for the future, so I opened it and saw the words that made my stomach plummet. Everything, and I mean everything, was going to Eric. The house, their savings, and their property. There was no mention of me, except from some generic remarks about how much they loved both of their sons. Yeah, certainly, equally. That's why they made sure their golden child inherited everything, while the son who kept them afloat received no mention. I felt foolish. Here I was, bending over backwards for them, ensuring that their bills were paid on time and that they never had to worry about food, while they sat back and prepared for a future in which I received nothing. And Eric was not just sluggish. He was entitled. He never raised a finger to assist them, never donated $1, yet he had somehow persuaded them that he deserved everything. Maybe because he was the younger son. Maybe because they always babied him. Maybe because he knew how to manipulate them, whatever the reason. They had made their decision. I sat there staring at the paper, my hand quivering with wrath and betrayal. How long did they plan this? Had they always planned for me to be their free financial safety net, offering nothing in return? Have they ever appreciated what I accomplished for them? I had no idea how long I had been sitting there, but my father eventually realized that I wasn't scanning anything. "Hey, Ralph, what's taking so long?" he inquired, going back into the room. I didn't even bother hiding the will. I raised it up and looked him in the eyes. "So this is how it is," I explained, my voice unnervingly calm. "Everything to Eric, after everything I've done for you?" My father's face turned pale for a moment. Then he sighed like if I were a small child throwing a tantrum. "Ralph, it's not what you think," he said. "Really?" I snapped. "Because it looks pretty damn clear to me. I've been paying your mortgage, helping with groceries, fixing the house up while Eric does nothing, and you still decided he's the only one who matters?" Dad seemed uncomfortable, but instead of explaining himself, he simply said, "It's complicated." No apology, no attempt to defend it beyond those two meaningless words. Just a lame reason and an eager expression, as if he was expecting for me to drop it and return to being their personal ATM. I should have walked out right away, but I wanted to hear it from both of them, so I called out for my mother. When she came in and saw the will in my hands, she didn't respond well. She had the decency to appear guilty, but what she said made my fury boil. "Ralph, honey, you don't need the inheritance," she whispered softly, as if she were doing me a favor. "You have a good job. You're independent. Eric, well, he struggles. We just want to make sure he's taken care of." That was the moment something inside of me shattered. They weren't even involved. They understood exactly what they were doing and believed it was absolutely justified. They had spent years tolerating Eric's sloth, and now they planned to reward it by giving him everything, while I was treated as an afterthought. I took a long breath, tightened my jaw, and placed the will on the table. "Got it," I said, my voice strangely calm. "Glad to know where we stand." I turned and went out of the house, ignoring their protests as I slammed the door behind me. They'd made their decision. It was now up to me to make mine. I did not return to their place after that. I did not call. I did not check in. For the first time in years, I let them deal with their own dang problems. If they needed to mend something, they could figure it out. If they wanted groceries, they could make their own way to the store. Most significantly, if the mortgage bill arrived, I would no longer be responsible for paying it. The hush lasted almost 2 weeks. At first, I guess they thought I was simply pouting and would crawl back like usual. Perhaps they expected me to calm down and apologize for daring to question their judgment. But as the days passed with no word from me, and more crucially, no financial assistance, you could almost feel the shift in their attitude. Then one afternoon, my phone vibrated. Dad texted, "The property taxes are due." That was all. No, he didn't text. "Hey, how have you been? Number. Sorry for what happened. Number. We really appreciate everything you've done." Just a cold, transactional message, as if I were still the walking bank they might tap into at any time. I stared at the computer for a time, almost amused by how predictable the results were. They truly believed that they could simply demand money, as if nothing had happened, and that I would continue to serve as their financial safety net, even after they made it plain that I was disposable. I said calmly, "I'm sure Eric will handle it, since the house is his and all." It took exactly 5 minutes until my mother called. I let it ring. Then another text came in. Mom texted, "Ralph, please don't be like this. We need to talk." Oh, so they wanted to discuss? Now that their debts were piling up and reality had finally hit them in the face. I waited an hour before responding. "There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice. Now you can live with it." I figured it was the end of the day. I had made my position clear, and no part of me felt terrible about it. But then Eric decided to join in. His text arrived late that evening. The moment his name appeared on my phone, I knew it was going to be something nasty. Sure enough, when I opened it, I was met with utter entitlement. Eric sent a message. "Dude, why are you being such a drama queen? It's not a big deal. Just help them out like you always do." I almost laughed. Is this not a significant deal? He actually seemed as if I had no right to be upset about this. I responded by typing, "Number. I think you've got it covered, since you're the favorite and all. Eric sent you a message." "Oh my God, are you seriously mad about the will? Grow up, man. It's just money." Oh, so it was just money. Now that it was his to inherit, did it no longer matter? The hypocrisy was astonishing. I responded, "Then you won't mind using some of that money to pay for the mortgage, right?" Silence. A few minutes later, my mother texted me again, this time in full guilt trip mode. Mom sent a message. "Ralph, your parents, family takes care of each other. We did so much for you growing up, and now you're just abandoning us." I had to take a deep breath to keep from tossing my phone across the room. Abandoning them? I'd spent years ensuring they never had to suffer, while they coddled and praised Eric's laziness. Now that they had to face the consequences of their own actions, I was the bad guy. I wasn't falling for it this time. I replied, "You made it clear I wasn't part of the family when you left me out of the will. Now Eric can take care of you." I can imagine my mother gasping loudly. She had a knack for playing the victim, even when she was in the wrong. A few minutes later, my father sent another text, and this one made me furious. Dad replied, "We're not asking for much, just enough to cover the mortgage for a few more months until we figure things out. Don't be selfish." Selfish? The word caused my blood to boil. I'd been bailing them out for years, giving up my own money, time, and energy to make their lives easier. I had done all a good son should do, and how did they repay me? I made sure I received nothing in exchange, and now that I've finally stood up for myself, I'm the one being selfish? I tightened my jaw, took a long breath, and texted, "No, I'm done." Then I turned off their phone. They had made their decision and were now going to live with it. The stillness lasted one day. I knew my parents would not give up so quickly, but I wasn't prepared for what happened next. The next morning, I received a notification on my phone, a bank transfer request. I grimaced as I unlocked my phone to check. It was from my mother. She had genuinely sent me a request for money as if I were an ATM. The amount is $3,500. I looked at it in surprise, partially chuckling at the arrogance. There was no note or explanation, just a cold, blatant demand for the precise amount required to cover their delinquent mortgage. They weren't even asking anymore. They assumed I'd give in. I declined without hesitation. My phone rang less than 5 minutes later. It was Mom. I let it ring, then received another text. Mom sent a text. Ralph, I know you saw the request. Why did you decline it? I paused before responding, because it's not my responsibility. Try Eric. Another call was rejected, then another text. Her message read, We're going to lose the house if you don't help us. Oh, so it was an emergency? After years of treating me like a living wallet, were they finally suffering the consequences? I responded. Maybe you should have thought about that before deciding I didn't matter. A few seconds later, Dad joined in. He sent a message. You're really going to let your parents become homeless? That one had me laughing out loud. The manipulation was so obvious it was almost comical. They weren't broke, and they weren't going to be put on the streets. They simply didn't want to go into their personal savings because they were accustomed to me covering everything. I disregarded them for the remainder of the day. That night, I received a text from Eric saying, Dude, just send them the money already. You're making this a bigger deal than it is. I clenched my jaw. This entitled little punk thought he could lecture me. I responded. You mean the same money you're inheriting? Why don't you send it? His response came quickly. Eric responded with a message. You know I don't have that kind of cash right now. So now it's about affordability? He was fine with me draining my accounts, but when it was his turn, he suddenly had nothing to offer. I responded. Guess you better figure it out then, bro. You're the one they chose. No response. I went to bed feeling strangely relaxed, as if I'd finally broken free from years of manipulation. However, the situation worsened the following day. I was at work when I received a call from my apartment's front desk. Hey, Ralph, your parents are here. I almost dropped my phone. What? She paused before responding. They're saying it's an emergency and that you won't answer their calls. Oh my God, they showed up at my flat solely because I stopped paying their bills? I took a deep breath and pinched the bridge of my nose. Please don't let them up. I'm not expecting them. There was an awkward moment. They're being kind of pushy. I clenched my jaw. I don't care. They can leave. I hung up and quickly received a text from Mom. We're downstairs. Open the door. There are no questions or explanations, just another demand. I didn't respond. Mom sent another text. Ralph, we're not leaving until you talk to us. I breathed sharply and stood up from my desk. They were not about to back down. Fine. I was ready to teach them a lesson they would never forget. I snatched my keys and stormed downstairs, my blood seething. I wasn't afraid. I was outraged. The audacity of these guys to walk up uninvited at my house, demanding money as if I were their personal ATM. No phone call, no half-hearted apology, simply a full-fledged ambush. They imagined they could corner me into submission like I was a naive child. I yanked the door open, and there they were, Mom, Dad, and of course Eric, all standing in a close formation, as if they were preparing to stage a family intervention. Mom had her arms crossed, and her trademark displeased mother expression was locked and loaded. Dad stood rigid, hands in his pockets, his expression a mix of annoyance and entitlement, as if he couldn't believe I was forcing him to do this in person. And Eric, the little parasite, had the audacity to appear bored, as if the entire situation was only somewhat bothersome for him, as if he was not the cause of any of this. When Mom saw me, she went into full theatrical. Ralph, finally, we need to talk. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Number, you need to leave. She blinked, as if she was unable to absorb what I had just said. Excuse me? You heard me. My voice was calm, controlled, and firm. You don't get to just show up at my apartment demanding money. That's insane. Dad gave a quick scoff. Are you really going to let us lose the house over a petty grudge? I gave out a frigid laugh. Petty grudge? Oh, you mean the one where you decided I was good enough to pay your bills, but not good enough to be in your will? That grudge? Mom gasped and clutched her chest as if I had just hit her. Ralph, that's not fair. We only did what we thought was best for the family. I tilted my head. Best for the family? You mean best for Eric? Just say it. Silence. A prolonged, heavy silence. Eric, who had been unusually silent until now, finally spoke up. Look, man, I don't even want to be involved in this. I didn't ask for anything. I turned to him, finally letting go. No, you just sit back and take everything that's handed to you. You're 28 years old, Eric. Get a damn job. His face grew crimson. Dude, what the hell? I stepped closer. You heard me. You want to inherit the house, start acting like a homeowner. You want to be the golden child, start paying their damn bills. I'm done being your personal bank. Eric averted his gaze, his attention drawn to the sidewalk. Mom took a deep breath and refocused her guilt trip. Ralph, he's your brother. I nodded. Yep, and I've supported him longer than you ever have. Dad's face clouded. You're being selfish. I laughed, a genuine laugh. That's generous of you, I said, gesturing between them. You two decided that Eric deserved everything and I deserved nothing, and now that it's time to pay the price for that choice, you're trying to manipulate me into fixing it for you? Not happening. Mom's voice became sharper. We thought you'd be mature about this. I raised an eyebrow. Mature? You mean quietly accept that I was betrayed and keep paying your bills? Because let's be real, that's what you wanted. Dad stepped nearer, attempting to loom over me as he had when I was a child. Ralph, we raised you. We fed you, clothed you, gave you everything. The least you can do is help us now. I looked him dead in the eyes. I already did for years, and you repaid me by cutting me out. Mom's lips twitched. We thought you'd understand. I exhaled and shook my head. Oh, I understand perfectly. I understand that I was never family to you, just a paycheck. Once again, there is silence. An oppressive and unmistakable silence. I turned to see Eric, who was still trying to be invisible. And you, what's your excuse? You had years to grow up, to get your life together, to contribute. But you didn't, because you knew they'd take care of you. And when they're gone, you just expected me to step in, huh? Eric eventually snapped. What do you want me to say, man? I didn't ask for this. I nodded slowly. Right. You didn't ask. You just benefited. His mouth opened and then closed. Nothing. He had nothing. Mom tried one final guilt trip. Ralph, we're family. Family takes care of each other. I stared at her for a long time before responding. Exactly. So why didn't you take care of me? She froze. No words, no response, nothing. I exhaled slowly, feeling lighter than I had in years. We're done here. I turned and walked back inside, shutting the door behind me. My phone buzzed before I even got back to my couch. Dad sent a new text. Wow, after everything we've done for you, you're really going to abandon us? I smirked and replied, No, you abandoned me. I'm just finally accepting it. I sent the message and then banned their phone numbers, but I had no idea that blocking them would simply make matters worse. Things quickly spiraled out of control. Less than a day after blocking them, I began receiving posts on Facebook. My parents were never very tech-savvy, but they knew how to voice their problems online, especially when they felt self-righteous. At first, I assumed it was simply my folks being dramatic. I mean, that was their go-to move, broadcasting family dysfunction for all to see. But as I browsed through their pages, I realized it wasn't just about me not assisting with finances anymore. The posts were camouflaged as family affection, but they were carefully veiled attacks on me. Mom had written about how she did not raise her son to be so selfish, and how a true family assists one other no matter what. A handful of her acquaintances said I was a letdown and out of touch with what actually mattered. Then Dad chimed in with his own post. So-called families should never turn their back on you when you need them the most. We gave everything to our children, and this is how we're repaid? My son, who should be helping us in our golden years, has chosen to abandon us. He tagged me, adding a passive-aggressive, I hope you're happy at the end. The real kicker, however, came from Eric. I should have known he'd join in on the drama. I wish some people could learn what it really means to be family. I love my parents, and I'm grateful for them, he wrote in a post full of falsehoods. Some people think that family is just about money. They don't understand that family is about love and sacrifice. I do anything for my parents, but some people just don't get that. They're too wrapped up in themselves to realize that true love is about helping those who raised you. That was it. That was my breaking point. I sat there staring at the television, stunned. How had things come to this point? They flipped the situation on its head, making me the villain, the selfish son who refused to support his sacrificed parents. The son who did not appreciate all the love they had shown me over the years. How could they? I'd always been the one who worked hard, contributed, and never complained. I had to accept that they had somehow convinced themselves that they were right, and now they were telling everyone that I was the problem. I didn't want to react immediately. I took a step back, collected my thoughts, and waited several hours. I wanted to make sure I wasn't just reacting out of anger. But the more I thought about it, the more I decided I couldn't let them get away with it. If they were going to drag my name through the mud, I was going to correct the record. So I grabbed out my phone and began typing. I created my own Facebook account, which I reserved for close friends and true family, and posted a lengthy update. I was not interested in playing their game. I did not want to get mired down in petty back and forths. I wanted to tell the truth. This is what I wrote. I've been quiet for a couple of days, but I can't stay quiet any longer. My family has been sharing a lot of things online about me that are simply not true. They've portrayed me as the villain, the selfish one who refuses to help my parents in their time of need. I'm here to set the record straight. I've always helped my family. From the moment I could get a job, I've been the one helping with bills, paying for groceries, and supporting them in every way. Over the years, I've watched my parents favor Eric, giving him everything, the house, the money, the attention, while I was expected to just keep giving without ever being considered equal. I'm sure some of you might be reading this and thinking, well, that's just how family works. But here's the truth. Family should be a two-way street. When I found out that my parents left everything to Eric in their will, I realized how one-sided this entire relationship had been. For years, I've funded their lifestyle by paying for vacations, bills, and even house taxes. And for what? To be treated as a backup plan? I'm done. I'm not just a wallet from which they can draw money whenever they need it. I'm a human being, and I deserve respect. I've earned the right to be treated as if I matter, not just when they need something from me. It's time for Eric to grow up. He's 28 years old, has never worked a day in his life, and has never accepted responsibility for anything. It's no surprise that my parents favor him, but he's had plenty of time to get his life in order, and now it's time for him to stand on his own 2 feet. To everyone who has been following this drama and supporting my parents, please understand that there are always 2 sides to every story. Yes, family is important, but it's also about mutual respect. I've given enough for a lifetime, and I'm not apologizing for taking a step back. This is not me turning my back on my family. It's me finally choosing myself. And to my parents, I wish you the best, but I'm done being your doormat. I hit the post, and I instantly felt relieved. For the first time in my life, I was telling the world the truth about my family, how they had taken advantage of me for years and had always expected me to be the one to save them, without ever considering what I needed. I wasn't going to let their story dominate my life anymore. The reactions were swift. Some people I hadn't spoken with in years came forward to offer their support. A number of my cousins, parents, friends, and even distant relatives liked the post and messaged me privately, apologizing for what I had gone through. It was so liberating to finally get the truth out there and not be subjected to guilt trips and manipulative conduct. Then followed the backlash. My parents and Eric went crazy. Eric sent me a message. "You're a traitor. You really had to air all our business out like this? You have no respect for family." Dad called me and literally yelled into the phone. "You've ruined everything, Ralph. You'll regret this. You'll regret cutting us off. You'll regret turning your back on your own family." But I did not regret it. Not for 1 second. I blocked them all. I was finished. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. Free of the toxic grasp they had on me for so long. As the days passed, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I had had enough of being treated as less than. I was tired of always having to solve everyone else's problems, and now I have the freedom to live my life on my own terms. So, no, I do not feel horrible about cutting them off. I deserved better. I still do. And from now on, I'm choosing to surround myself with people who value me for who I am, rather than what I can provide them. It's time for me to move on for good.